before going further, I want to give you my real biography. It's short. John DeGraaf regrets that, to the eternal disappointment of his mother, he left college just before graduation to become a community organizer. Ooh. In penance, he vowed to live simply, a decision reinforced by his profession as a documentary filmmaker. So that sort of sums it up. But my big interest over the years started, I grew up here in San Francisco, and my youth was spent in the Sierra. It was my playground. My dad introduced it to me when I was very young, but by the time I was 14 years old, my father would take myself and my best friend, when school ended, up to Yosemite and drop us off. And we would have, for those summers, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks by ourselves, just kids, in the mountains, doing what we wanted to do. And at the end of that period of time, one of the other parents would pick us up and bring us home. What that experience gave me was a lot of things: a love of nature, of wild places, an interest in the environment, which has stuck with me till this day, and an appreciation of the value of time, of actually having the time to slow down and appreciate things of this sort. I went to the University of Wisconsin, and I was a sociology student in 1968 taking a social problems class when we were told that by the year 2000 there would be this big social problem which we sociologists would have to help solve. Anybody wild guess what this problem was going to be?
Too much leisure time.
Ah, there's always one in the room. Very good. I can walk away now. I know you know all the answers. Yes, because of automation and this thing they were calling then cybernation, this computer revolution that we are all part of, we would be working, according to a U.S. Senate subcommittee, 15 to 20 hours a week by the year 2000. We would have 7 to 10 weeks of vacation a year, and we would all have so much time on our hands, we wouldn't know what to do with it. And this was going to be the big problem we sociologists were going to have to help solve. Well, as you know, it didn't quite work that way. By 1991, I began work on a film called Running Out of Time for PBS, a national show, based on the fact that by then it seemed to me that everybody's life was a complete frenzy. And we found out that people were actually working a month longer by 1991 than they had in 1968 in actual hours. And when you'd go around and talk to people, you used to say, "How are you?" And they used to say, "Fine." Now everybody said busy. Some busy, and some busy, because it was a mark of pride and excitement. So I made that film, and couple of years later, was asked to make another film, my one little mini hit on PBS, called Affluenza. It apparently reached a few people. It was really about over-consuming in America and its impacts on many things. And from that, I was then asked to write a book with the same subject. The third edition just came out, hot off the press, of Affluenza. And of course, you've seen that word used now a lot in the news in relation to this case in Texas and other things, a rather different meaning than I had suggested in the original film. But one thing about doing that is it got me back into being an activist and not simply a filmmaker. And so I worked with a group of people called the Simplicity Forum, some of whom actually lived here in Palo Alto. And we were trying to figure out what can we do in an active way to promote the idea of simplicity, of living in a different way. 5 minutes, good, I'll pull it together. So anyway, we concluded that we couldn't just tell people, "Oh, don't consume." You know, that doesn't work. We had to say, you're making a sacrifice now, and that sacrifice is the time in your lives, the overwork and all of that. So we started in 2002 an organization called Take Back Your Time. You can find that at timeday.org, and I'm going to pass out a little flyer that has some of this. And I then became, after a while, a so-called expert on the subject of time balance. Most people who know me know that that is a myth. But nonetheless, I'm supposed to be that. And so, so in 2009, I was invited to Brazil to speak at the 5th International Gross National Happiness Conference. I'm not making this up. the 5th International Gross National Happiness Conference on the subject of time balance. That is because Bhutan has a set of domains of gross national happiness, of things that are considered important for happiness, and that's on the list. And one of those 10 domains is time balance, the idea that we're not constantly in a rush. And in that meeting, I got connected with some people from Victoria, BC, who were actually evaluating the happiness and well-being of their community. And that led to returning to Seattle and starting a project called the Happiness Initiative, which you can find at happycounts.org. We worked with San Francisco State University's psychology department to create a 12 to 15-minute survey, heavily scientifically validated, which you can take, and it will give you a score in all these 10 dimensions of well-being of life. And you will see how you compare to the average American. And you can then think about, where's my life maybe out of balance, and what do I want to work on? We have found that the lowest score from 40,000 of these surveys completed nationally in the United States is for time balance. Surprise, surprise. So I have continued to work on this issue. I went to Bhutan in early 2013 as a group. I'm going to just, this thing has a little diagram. It indicates the domains of well-being, but it also indicates we had an issue among the people in Bhutan. There were two things. One thing was some people like the term well-being, and other people like the term happiness. And the people who like the term well-being get all when you hear the word happiness. It freaks them out, really, you know. And so this was this conflict. And the other conflict was between the people who said, it's all about policy, it's all about the conditions of life, and the people who, on the other hand, said, no, it's all about personal change. And a man named Enrico Giovannini, who is now the Minister of Labor in the Italian government, came up and he drew a diagram for us on the sand with a stick. And he said, no, we have to understand that all of this stuff matters. That well-being is different from happiness. Well-being is really what we can measure objectively. How health, for example, what is life expectancy, what is mortality and stuff. Happiness is how do people feel about those domains or conditions of their life. How do you feel about your health? My health is good, my health is poor. And in between, and well-being is the stuff of policy, and we need to change conditions in order to improve well-being. Happiness is on top of conditions. It's also a thing called happiness skills, which is the kinds of things we can learn, like generosity and tolerance and mindfulness and self-discipline and all of these things that can translate those conditions into happiness. And so we've been working with that kind of model. What I'm doing now, this is the end of it, is I am involved in a campaign to think of various ways that we can win time back for Americans. I know we all want to be innovative and produce more and more things, but I still think we have to ask this question, what is productivity for? And when are we actually going to slow down a little bit so we can actually enjoy all of this stuff that we've done? So I'm involved in Washington State right now. We just had a bill in our state legislature that did not pass, but if it had passed, and maybe it will next year, would make us the first state in the United States to require paid vacation time for workers. We're one of only 5 countries in the entire world that don't require paid vacation time. The other 4 are Suriname, Guyana, Nepal, and Burma. So this is what I'm about, trying to win time for people and trying to get people to think about the whole of their lives, not just how productive they are, but how much time they have to give to others and to things and so forth. So if you have ideas for me, you can find my contact on that, and I would love to talk about this. You can also check out our Happy Counts website and our Time Day website. And yeah, my last thing is that I'm thinking we always talk about invention being the mother of, necessity being the mother of invention. You've heard this statement, you know, that we have. But the other side to that is that invention becomes the mother of necessity. We make things and then we have to have them. And then we have to have more of them. And we have to figure out where's the balance in all of this. Thank you.